Hi, my name is Mary Carreón, and I'm the editor-in-chief of DoubleBlind magazine. And here's everything we know today about 5-MeO-DMT. If you like topics like this, you can find more in our newsletter. It's linked in the description below. We recently did a webinar with Joel Breyer and his partner, Victoria Wuschner, from 5 and 10 Dava down in Mexico, and they dropped some excellent knowledge and wisdom. So 5-MeO-DMT is the secretion of the Sonoran desert toad, and it is also synthesized into an isolated compound, 5-MeO-DMT, and ultimately the synthetic compound is the compound that we should be taking here. We should leave the toads alone, save the toads, leave the toads alone. The toads are ultimately a fascination of all of us, of all psychonauts at this point, pretty much everywhere. And there is a responsible way to work with this substance. You don't have to harm the toads. And people who are not harming the toads and being very successful at not harming toads are Joel Breyer and Victoria Wuschner down at 5 and 10 Dava, which is a 5-MeO-DMT retreat center. And they offer a very safe experience for people to go and travel down there and work with the medicine and have ultimately very cathartic experiences. And here are the tips on how to stay safe with this medicine. I would say that there are certain things that we all should know, especially on a very basic level. Like, what is the difference between 5-MeO-DMT and regular old DMT or NN-DMT? And there's a whole scientific reason that I would be crazy to try and regurgitate to you. However, on a very basic level, 5-MeO-DMT is a little bit of a crazier experience ultimately than regular NN-DMT, according to Joel Breyer. 5-MeO is going to be substantially more potent and more powerful, whereas NN-DMT for many people is perfectly fine to do alone. And that's the key word, is that 5-MeO-DMT is not really safe to do alone because it can lead to many unforeseen results or experiences that can cause harm if you are not with somebody who knows how to take care of you during that experience. So unlike regular NN-DMT, which many of us have had experiences with NN-DMT at home and alone, you know, it's something where you kind of maybe lay down or you're kind of sitting in your room or you're on your couch and maybe you puff a pen, a DMT pen, you know, like many of us have had these experiences at home and it's been safe. And right now, actually, there is a rise of 5-MeO-DMT pens that are being sold on the underground market. And it's not the safest to do, according to Joel Breyer. These experiences are much more intense. They are a little bit more just a little crazy. You can't really know what is going to happen ultimately. So as a result, that is why it's different than the NN-DMT. NN-DMT is a little bit more predictable in the sense of what you are going to experience in terms of the physical nature of it. The visual experience might be different every time. You might meet machine elves, you might meet the DMT deities, but with 5-MeO, you are going to be likely like kind of shook. And also you can have a very blissful experience, but you could also have the equivalent in a harrowing, terrifying experience that can leave you when you come out of it feeling extremely destabilized. And this destabilization can be very common if you are not careful about how you are leading into the experience and also working with that experience afterwards. You need to be with people who are very knowledgeable and can create safety around you to help kind of put everything back together. And that is not really something that people experience with just regular NN-DMT. We're not always going to have a blissful experience. And that goes for any psychedelic, ultimately. You're not going to have a blissful, beautiful, kaleidoscopic, mystical time. Oftentimes, we have really scary, terrifying experiences that can sometimes show you what you need to work on or show you some kind of nugget of wisdom that you can take with you into the future. But that doesn't mean that it's fun or good or exciting or even like safe to be going through sometimes. These experiences can be so real, so dark, and so scary that they can cause a lot of issues afterwards if you're not careful, and with people who can take care of you on the back end of such an experience. But that's the point of this whole message, is that we need to drop the expectation of experiencing bliss, even though you are engaging with the God molecule, which kind of implies that one might have a blissful experience, but really, that's not it. Victoria Wushner says that there is a lot of expectation that people are coming to this medicine with, and they've heard that it's the biggest experience in the world. They've heard that it's nicknamed the God molecule, and a lot of sensationalism has conditioned people to expect to have a blissful experience or to have some kind of massive catharsis that's going to wash them clean of all of their sins, and that it could be a magic bullet for all of their problems. However, it's not that easy. Of course, a bliss experience can happen, but really it's important that we stop chasing that, Victoria Wushner says. The opposite experience, what we would call a challenging experience or colloquially a bad trip, can happen. And it's a lot more likely that that will happen, particularly on 5-MeO-DMT. So it's not something that we should try and run away from. It's just something that we should prepare for. It's like packing your bags just in case. An alternative or alternate route requires us to go down. Not everything goes as planned, so we must prepare for the unforeseen. These grueling experiences sometimes have a lot more wisdom to take from them than the blissful, kaleidoscopic, mystical experiences altogether. There are also a number of contraindications heading into a 5-MeO-DMT experience. According to Joel Breyer, some of the things that they look for when they are doing an intake is conditions like schizophrenia. That is a common contraindication. Even schizophrenia in the immediate family can be a contraindication. So your mom, your dad, your sister, your brother, even extended family is something worth talking to your facilitator about. Several nervous system conditions as well. There is a theoretical rationale that would suggest that there can be curative properties with 5-MeO that can aid in things like multiple sclerosis. However, a 5-MeO-DMT experience can also trigger dormant multiple sclerosis, according to Joel Breyer. So, something to keep in mind. Absolutely something to talk to your facilitator about. Cluster B personalities, dark triad personalities, things like borderline personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, bipolar 1 or 2, these are also common contraindications. Joel Breyer says it's not necessarily a no per se, but definitely something that you want to talk to a very seasoned facilitator about, because ultimately they are working with a team and someone they can refer you to have a conversation about these conditions and whether or not an experience like 5-MeO is right for you. Another thing that is wildly important, not just heading into a 5-MeO experience, but heading into any psychedelic experience, heading into a ceremony, heading into a therapeutic session, is having your root chakra things taken care of. That is having a roof over your head, to having your food taken care of, making sure that you're not hungry, making sure that you are not in a state of destabilization in your life. This even extends to, if you've gone through a very serious breakup, stuff like that. Like maybe it's not a good time to consume a major psychedelic substance that is definitely going to touch those sensitivities within you at the time. So having a little bit of distance between whatever is going on in your life that is destabilizing and consuming a psychedelic substance is the smart thing to do for sure. Joel Breyer says, psychologically speaking, we are looking for a foundational sense of safety and stability in a person's life. So again, if your stability is being rocked, maybe you lost your job, maybe you don't know where your next paycheck is coming from, maybe you're very stressed out about the health of your mother, or maybe just major life changes are happening, and this is the type of stability issues that Joel is discussing. The example that he gives is a single mother who has just gotten out of an abusive marriage and is staying at a hotel with her infant, not knowing where they are going to stay the next month and not knowing how they are going to eat. probably should not be sitting with this medicine right now. And even though he is talking about 5-MeO-DMT, this is really the baseline for all psychedelics at large, but particularly if you're working with a large dose of anything, ayahuasca, mushrooms, LSD, anything. So make sure that your stability and your safety is taken care of, and then you might be better off taking 5-MeO-DMT then. Another very controversial topic that many people feel very passionately about, I also feel very passionately about it, is whether to use the synthetic 5-MeO-DMT or to use the actual secretion from a Sonoran desert toad. And we believe that you should be using the synthetic compound. The synthetic 5-MeO-DMT compound is better for the safety of these poor animals. These toads are very sensitive, and they don't leave their home. They stay in their habitats and around their habitats in a very small radius for the duration of their lives. And these little tiny animals, it's like the worst thing that could happen to them, that they excrete a psychedelic substance, because people hunt them now, and these little things just deserve to live their lives, and the environment is sensitive and their habitats are sensitive, and humans are not helping any of that, and they are getting crazy poached out there in the world because there's now a whole market around them, a market that is fueled by people looking for transcendence and healing to utilize the substance by poaching them, taking them out of their habitat, and then, like messing with them ultimately until they secrete this substance, which not only is just a substance that they secrete, they do it out of fear. They do it because that is the only way they can protect themselves. And then they're thrown back into the wild sometimes, or kept in a bucket and just expected to survive. This is crazy. I mean, it's torture. The ethics and sustainability of hurting a frog, or a toad rather, to get high for healing is not okay. And I will draw that line in the sand because that's crazy. Joelle Breyer says the Bufo alvarius toad is about to be put on the endangered species list. And that is a very real thing. I fact-checked this as I was writing a story about it. And in California, the Bufo alvarius toad was once very present here in California, and it is no longer present in California, so they can't find it anywhere here. It is still around in the south, in like in the Sonoran desert. However, its population is decreasing significantly. There have been many samples ranging from 10 to 30%. If you go to a facilitator who is using the natural compound, which many are out there today, and they tell you that you are going to have a safe dose, the reality is that you could be getting a dose of 5-MeO-DMT with 10% of that compound, or 30, or anywhere in between, making it a lot more difficult for the facilitator ultimately to be able to take care of you and likely anyone else in the group that you are sitting with. So everyone's going to be experiencing something a little bit different, which again makes it difficult for a facilitator or a team to do their job accurately. Joelle Breyer and Victoria Wuchner down at 5, they use the 5-MeO-DMT synthetic compound, and they say that the additional alkaloids in the toad secretion are not only going to change the experience, but they pose a heavier load actually on the heart. The natural compound in this instance actually poses a higher health risk. So the isolated 5-MeO-DMT compound is actually better for our health and safety. If you liked this video, go ahead and like and subscribe. You can also scroll through our YouTube channel to see everything else that we've done and videos we've created. We also have a weekly newsletter where we can talk about way more than we can here on YouTube. It's linked in the description below.